Hi, this is just an intro for the next two clips, one of which is sorting out my mirror gaskets on my wife's Mini. I actually did record the intro, but I pressed stop halfway through and all got corrupted, so it's the intro to that. Unfortunately, someone came down our street knocking down mirrors, and as you can see here, there's a little gasket that goes around the mirror here to protect it against the door. And where they were knocking in the mirrors, they cut and split this bottom edge on my wife's, this bottom edge on my wife's Mini. So I wanted to replace that gasket. So there's a short clip showing how that goes through. I bought some parts off of eBay. They were really cheap, so I thought, let's give that a go. Should be a 30-second job. On the subject of 30-second jobs, I wanted to replace the exhaust hanger bolts on my wife's Mini as well, because the last time I replaced the exhaust, the bolts had sheared off a bit, meant that the actual 4 bolts that go down, only 2 of them were full length and the other 2 were short. One was really stumpy, one was hanging on by a couple of threads, so I wanted to replace them. And again, I bought some parts off eBay to do that, and it didn't go according to plan, so I've got a little summary of that at the end. So thanks very much. I think bear with me on this one. It is just a quick demo of how to do the mirror gaskets and then walking through the problems I had with the exhaust hangers. So hopefully that makes sense, and straight into removing the gaskets. So the back one you can just reach by kind of getting in at this point and then twisting it out with your fingers like that. The rest are easy to access. The only issue is they get a little bit rusty. As you can see, I think it's all the water ingress from around the seams. But once they get part way out, you can just thread them with your hand. Now I have the electric adjusters on this mirror, not the soft fold, so I don't know if it's going to be different on the soft fold or the auto folding. But for me, all I have to do is lift this out, and there's a connector here which is just a pinch. This is a pinch. Come on, pinch. And it should, if you can pinch both sides of it, that is. There we go. Pinch both out. So I want to be careful I don't let that drop. But now I can peel this seal off and replace it. But what I'm going to do is just clean up that first. Now, I'm hoping you can see this, because these are sided. Just try not to lose these down the drain. But this peels off and clips behind a little bit. Now, I've made the mistake of not buying OEM ones. These are aftermarkets from eBay, so we'll see how well it fits. You see it just pops off. Let's give the edge a bit of a clean. Okay, now they are written with L on the left, which makes my life a bit easier, because I would probably not figure out which way around it goes for a long while. But it clips over and behind here. And then what you'll see is there's some guide pins as well around this top edge that gets things into place. But it also clips around the seam on the edge. So I'm just going to go pull that around to make sure that fits nicely. And then it should just be a case of reconnect. Let's push back in. And then make sure that still stays on. Come on. Just going to make sure all our seals are bent nicely. There we go. And I'm going to start threading these in. Now, I probably should have replaced these bolts, but I was an idiot and thought, that'll be fine. Right, I'll just go around and tighten everything up. We'll check it works afterwards. So, you can see, nice easy one tool job, getting the seam round. The aftermarket non-OEM ones are supple, nice and easy to go on. They didn't have any issues with fitment. You can see this is the side on this side that I took off. It's got some pliability still, but you can see where it's torn and broken. Whereas the far side here is much less pliable, much more kind of harder, and again, has started to fail at the bottom. So I think these were like £8 on eBay as an aftermarket part, so well worth purchasing. And a 5-minute job just to stop water ingress to the inside of the car. If, you know, that's the way it could flow, I suppose it could capillary down. It's just worth making sure the seals are good and also tightens it up the edge there. Also with this, I did the rear exhaust hangers on my wife's Mini and it was a nightmare. Unlike these, which were decent eBay replacements, the exhaust hangers on the rear, the actual bolts that go through, definitely not worth it. I'll actually probably insert a bit of a clip there for that, because this was an absolute nightmare. On these Minis, you have the exhaust hangers, which are actually studs that go through the boot, and then there's a set of rubber clamps that go on top of that and get bolted to these two bolts that come recessed of the underside. And then there's a pin that goes from your exhaust into those rubber grommets, and the rubber bounces around, keeps everything nice and bouncy and everything's good. However, when you change those rubbers, you have to bolt them in. They're not just a simple set of normal BMW rubber hangers that slides onto poles on either end. So you unbolt them, and what happens is over time, because they're an exposed thread on the bottom of the car, you'll see from this one, they get shortened. This is the correct length, and this is what happens over time. They take them off, they snap, and sometimes you can get away with reusing it with a little bit of thread, but eventually it doesn't. Now that's all right on that one. On this one, you can see this one snapped clear at the bottom. So I went on eBay, as any good person does, and I bought some replacements hanger bolts, and I measured. They are exactly the same length from tip on the thread. However, the ones I've got, and I didn't notice when I bought them and measured everything, was the first 5 mil or so was smooth, and that meant when you try and put it on the car, it is a hard push from the bottom to get everything to go forwards. Now normally that's not a problem, because as you can see from this one, there's a couple of spot welds, if not 3, on this particular one, which holds the top mount in place. I don't have that. I don't have a welder. I didn't put a spot weld in. So what I've had to do is get my wife to push down from one side as I push up from the other to bolt all these in place. Now you can see here what I mean by they come through the boot floor. This was in place here. A couple of spot welds. You drill them out, and then the whole thing lifts out. It's not glued or anything. It takes a little bit of leverage because I need to find the spot weld, especially on this side where it was underneath, because I couldn't see the spot weld because this one had the floor deadening compound on it, whereas this one just had paint, so it made it see the spot weld. Once you pop them out, slot through, bolt from the underside, job's a good one. So if anyone's going to do this work in the future, I would strongly advise just go and spend the money at BMW and get the right hangers, or just replace them with bolts. There is floor underneath this, and you could get away with a bolt on a big washer. Might be easier for the future. However, that means you then have to kind of have a bolt on top and a bolt at the bottom, whereas this is captive, or you might be able to weld something in yourself. But for me, I'm going to have to go to BMW next time, and the same with the rubber hangers at the bottom. I went eBay, probably not a wise choice. I don't know if they're going to last. But if they don't last, I think what I'll do is I'll get a whole new set and replace them out. But 2 little jobs done, and the Mini keeps on going. All right, thanks very much.